Atlanta is buzzing once again, and this time, the Frost household is at the center of a storm so intense that fans are saying it might change the entire empire forever. Imagine the woman who stood by Kirk Frost through endless scandals, the heartbreaks, the cheating rumors, and the endless whispers. Rasheeda, now quietly making her boldest move yet. Sources close to the Frost family claim that Rasheeda has secretly filed legal papers demanding full control over the Frost empire. Yes, you heard that, rightful control of the businesses, the brand, the money, and every piece of power Kirk thought he owned. And to make things even more shocking, whispers suggest that she wants Jasmine, Kirk's infamous ex-lover, completely cut out of the picture too. Fans are shocked, jaws are dropping, and social media is already exploding with questions. Is this the end of the Frost dynasty as we know it? Picture this: late-night meetings with lawyers, hidden phone calls away from Kirk, and documents quietly being slipped into the courthouse while the cameras are still focused on their love and hip-hop drama. Rasheeda, who once played the role of the loyal wife, now looks like she's rewriting the script of her life and empire. But what exactly pushed her to this breaking point? Was it another betrayal? Was it Jasmine's constant shadow looming over her marriage? Or did Rasheeda finally decide that if Kirk could run around behind her back, then she would take everything right from under his nose? The family is divided, the fans are in disbelief, and the Frost empire is hanging by a thread. Rumors say Kirk had no idea about the filing until a close associate tipped him off, and his reaction, let's just say insiders describe it as nothing short of explosive. As for Jasmine, her silence on the matter is only fueling more speculation. Is she out of the Frost circle for good? Or does she have her own secret plan waiting to detonate? Stay tuned, because what we're about to uncover will leave you questioning loyalty, love, and the true price of empire power. This isn't just another Frost scandal, this could be the beginning of the ultimate showdown. The whispers began with a late-night phone call that no one was supposed to hear. Rasheeda had stepped out of the Frost household, clutching her phone tightly, her voice low but filled with a determination that no one could mistake. For years, she had played the role of the loyal wife, smiling through the cameras, defending Kirk in public, and swallowing her pride behind closed doors. But this time, something inside her snapped. It was not just about love anymore. Not just about infidelity or the embarrassment Jasmine brought into her life. It was about power. The Frost empire had been built on her back, her music, her image, her boutiques, her relentless grind, and yet Kirk had always positioned himself as the boss. Now, Rasheeda was quietly rewriting the rules, and the first step was a legal strike that no one saw coming. Lawyers whispered about the documents late at night, using code names and private emails. One attorney described her energy as cold, calculated, and almost ruthless. She's not emotional anymore, he allegedly told a confidant. She's strategic. This wasn't the Rasheeda fans had seen crying on reality TV, begging Kirk for respect, or struggling to forgive him after Jasmine's scandal. This was a woman who had learned the game, mastered it, and was now turning it against the very man who once played her. Insiders revealed that Kirk was blindsided. He had been living as though everything was under control, managing the businesses, juggling his connections, and even still entertaining Jasmine in quiet corners of Atlanta. But what he didn't know was that Rasheeda had already secured meetings with financial advisors who were dissecting every Frost account, every property, every contract tied to the family brand. She was building a case that would leave no room for Kirk to breathe, and certainly no place for Jasmine to stand. The tension began to spill into their household. Kirk noticed Rasheeda moving differently, her phone never left her side. Her trips out became more frequent, and when he questioned her, she would throw back sharp replies that left him stunned. "Don't worry about me," she snapped one night. "Worry about what's about to hit you." Kirk didn't know what she meant, but her tone was icy enough to keep him quiet for the rest of the evening. Meanwhile, Jasmine was growing restless. She had been riding the edge of the Frost family drama for years, often inserting herself into Kirk's orbit with sly confidence. But lately, Kirk had grown distant, distracted, almost paranoid. She pressed him about it during one of their secret meetings, her voice dripping with suspicion. "What's going on with you? You've been different," she pushed. Kirk rubbed his temples and sighed, muttering about Rasheeda being up to something, but he had no proof. Jasmine smirked, convinced Rasheeda was simply bluffing. But even she couldn't ignore the sudden chill that had taken over Atlanta's gossip circles. Something was definitely brewing. The fans, of course, caught wind of it before the family could manage the whispers. Social media began to buzz with speculation. Screenshots of alleged court filings circulated online, though blurred and heavily debated. Hashtags like #FrostEmpireFall and #RasheeDA moves silently began to trend. Blogs lit up with wild theories, some claiming Rasheeda was finally divorcing Kirk, others insisting she was seizing all the Frost businesses, and a few even speculating that she was preparing to publicly humiliate Jasmine once and for all. The frenzy reached such a peak that even other Love and Hip Hop cast members started to drop cryptic comments online. Fueling the fire, Carly Red, never one to miss a moment of chaos, went live on Instagram with her usual sly grin. "Y'all don't even know the half," she teased, her followers flooding the comments with questions. "Let's just say the queen finally woke up, and when she moves, everybody gonna feel it." Fans instantly connected her words to Rasheeda, and the drama became unavoidable. Inside the Frost household, emotions ran high. Kirk confronted Rasheeda late one night, his voice raised and shaky. "What are you doing? I'm hearing things. I'm seeing things online. Are you trying to ruin me?" Rasheeda looked at him with a calmness that rattled him even more. "No," she replied, her voice steady. "I'm just taking back what's mine." Kirk's face twisted with anger, his pride wounded deeper than any cheating scandal ever had. He shouted about betrayal, about loyalty, about the years they had built together, but Rasheeda's expression never changed. She had already made up her mind, and no amount of Kirk's bluster could shake it. Behind the scenes, Jasmine panicked. If Rasheeda truly was making a legal move for the Empire, then Jasmine's fragile ties to Kirk could crumble overnight. Her access to Frost money, her quiet influence, her ability to flaunt her connection to Kirk could all be gone. She called Kirk frantically, demanding answers. "What is she doing? Why aren't you stopping her?" Kirk snapped back. "I can't stop something I don't even see coming." His voice was tense, his words sharp, and for the first time, Jasmine felt the ground beneath her slipping away. The whispers turned into roars when a local Atlanta courthouse leak confirmed that Rasheeda had indeed filed a petition, seeking sole management rights over several Frost-owned businesses. Though names were redacted, fans pieced together the puzzle instantly. The Frost Empire was officially in the middle of a legal war, and Rasheeda was the one pulling the strings. Atlanta became divided. Some fans praised Rasheeda for finally taking control and refusing to play the victim any longer. "About time she bossed up," one tweet read. Others accused her of being cold, of destroying her family for money and pride. "She could have just walked away. Why take everything?" Another fan posted. The debates raged online, but one thing was certain: nobody was ready for the storm that was just beginning to unravel. The next days in the Frost household were unbearable. Kirk tried to maintain control, walking around with forced bravado, but his phone kept buzzing with calls from business partners, demanding clarity. Jasmine, too, began calling more frequently, her tone more desperate each time. Rasheeda, however, walked with a new sense of power, her head high, her demeanor unshaken. When friends asked her what was going on, she would simply smile and say, "You'll see soon enough." The cryptic responses only fueled the speculation further, and her silence became louder than Kirk's panic. Even their children noticed the tension. Conversations at the dinner table were strained, filled with awkward silences and sharp glares between their parents. The Frost household, once chaotic but united in its dysfunction, now felt like a battlefield divided into camps. The empire that had once looked unshakable on TV was cracking at the seams, and the first break was only the beginning. By the end of that week, Kirk realized this was no bluff. This was real, and Rasheeda wasn't backing down. His empire, his pride, and even his hold over Jasmine were slipping fast. And for the first time, he understood that the woman he underestimated for years was about to become his greatest rival. What Rasheeda had started would not only reshape their marriage, it would redefine the Frost legacy forever. Kirk's sleepless nights turned into pacing storms across the Frost mansion. The once confident head of the empire was unraveling. He barked orders at assistants, called every lawyer he knew, and tried to pull strings through old industry contacts, but the walls were closing in. Rasheeda's move had been too silent, too precise. Every time he thought he'd found a loophole, he discovered she had already closed it. The whispers from his own circle stung even worse. Business associates who once praised his leadership now asked quiet questions. "Is Rasheeda really running things now? Should we even be dealing with you?" His pride, the very core of his identity, was under assault. Meanwhile, Rasheeda kept her composure. She met with her attorneys in quiet lounges, always careful to keep her head down, sunglasses on, and papers tucked away in expensive bags. To outsiders, it looked like casual business. To insiders, it was war. Her lawyers warned her about the potential backlash. Fans divided. Kirk lashing out, Jasmine stirring trouble, but Rasheeda brushed it all off. "I've lived through worse storms," she said coldly. This time, I'm the one holding the umbrella. Jasmine, on the other hand, was spiraling. She stormed into Kirk's condo one evening, her voice shrill with panic. You told me I had a place. You told me I was secure. Kirk slammed his drink on the table, shouting back, I didn't tell you Rasheeda was gonna pull this. The argument spiraled into screaming matches that neighbors overheard, their voices breaking through the Atlanta night. Fans online claimed to have recordings of the fight, snippets where Jasmine shouted, she's cutting me out, and Kirk's voice roared back, I can't stop her. These alleged leaks went viral, fueling the frenzy. The tension reached new heights during a Love and Hip Hop filming session. Cameras rolled as cast members gathered at a lounge, but the energy was charged. Carly Red sat with her signature smirk, whispering in Erica Dixon's ear while Rasheeda walked in, her presence commanding the room. Kirk arrived minutes later, his face already tight with anger. As producers urged the group into casual conversation, the inevitable explosion came. Kirk slammed his hand on the table, glaring across at his wife. So this is how you want to play me? In front of the world. Rasheeda leaned back, unbothered, and fired back. The world already saw who you were a long time ago. I'm just making it official. Gasps echoed around the table. Carly nearly spit out her drink. Erica covered her mouth. The tension was thick enough to choke on. And fans watching the episode later would call it one of the most raw moments in LHHATL history. The producers didn't even need to stir the pot. The Frosts were burning it themselves. After filming wrapped, word spread like wildfire. Blogs reported that Kirk stormed off set, cursing about betrayal and threatening to sue. Rasheeda, meanwhile, stayed behind, chatting calmly with the other cast members, almost relishing in her newfound power. Fans said the look on her face wasn't just confidence, it was liberation. But the real shock came days later, when more documents leaked. This time, it wasn't speculation. Court papers showed Rasheeda's request for sole ownership of Priest, her boutique empire, along with several Frost-managed music and entertainment ventures. The language was ruthless. She wanted Kirk removed from all managerial roles, and Jasmine explicitly barred from any association with Frost assets. Fans were stunned. It wasn't just about survival anymore. This was exile. Jasmine's fury hit social media. She went live in tears, her voice shaking with anger and desperation. She's trying to erase me like I was never here. Like I didn't carry his child. Like I wasn't part of this story too. The comments section exploded. Some fans sympathized, accusing Rasheeda of being vindictive. Others clapped back, telling Jasmine she was finally facing the consequences of inserting herself into Rasheeda's marriage. The divide grew uglier by the hour, with hashtags like hashtag Team RASHEEDA and hashtag Justice for Jasmine battling for dominance. Kirk, caught between two worlds, tried to play damage control. He gave a half-hearted interview with a local radio station, his voice defensive. This ain't what it looks like. People need to stop speculating. Rasheeda and we gonna work it out? But even as he said it, his voice cracked. The hosts pressed him, asking about the filings, about Jasmine's meltdown. But Kirk dodged with vague answers. Listeners weren't convinced, and clips of the interview were dragged online. Behind closed doors, Rasheeda was relentless. Friends who visited her described her as calm but steely, like a chess master who already saw 10 moves ahead. He underestimated me for too long, she confided to one friend. Now he's gonna see what I can really do. The Frost Empire, once Kirk's kingdom, was shifting under her control piece by piece. By the end of that month, alliances began to form. Some cast members openly sided with Rasheeda, praising her for finally standing up and claiming her worth. Others whispered that she was destroying not only her marriage but also the empire they had all worked to build. And through it all, Jasmine clung desperately to whatever scraps of influence she still had, threatening to expose secrets that could blow the entire situation wide open. The drama had only just begun, and Atlanta was bracing for the next explosion. The Frost Empire wasn't just in trouble, it was at war, and nobody was safe from the fallout. Jasmine's threats to expose secrets didn't stay in whispers for long. Late one night, she uploaded a cryptic Instagram story, a blurry screenshot of what looked like financial statements, a half-visible signature, and the caption, "If they cut me out, the truth comes out. Don't play with me." Within minutes, blogs picked it up, fans dissected every pixel, and the post went viral before Jasmine deleted it. But the damage was done. Questions about hidden bank accounts, side businesses, and Frost money laundering through shell companies flooded Twitter. Suddenly, what had seemed like just a messy marital war now looked like the beginning of a corporate scandal. Kirk went into full panic mode. He called Jasmine over, furious about the leak. "Do you realize what you just did? They gon' investigate us now. You trying to take us all down? Jasmine, her eyes red with tears but her tone sharp, shot back, you think I care? You promised me security, and now she's about to erase me. If I go down, I'm not going alone. Their screaming match echoed through the halls, and once again, neighbors swore they recorded pieces of it. A clip surfaced online where Kirk could be heard yelling, "You don't know who you messing with, Jasmine." And she fired back, "Neither do you, Rasheeda, smarter than both of us." Fans replayed it endlessly, treating it like a leaked diss track, quoting the lines like lyrics. Meanwhile, Rasheeda stayed silent on social media, but silence was its own weapon. Her team of lawyers doubled down, pushing court filings further, attaching exhibits that included receipts, contracts, and even old deals where Rasheeda's name had been sidelined. For the first time, fans saw tangible proof of how much she had carried the empire while Kirk basked in the credit. Sympathy began shifting heavily in her favor. One viral tweet read, "She built Prest, she kept the music alive, she raised the family, and he gave her nothing but Jasmine drama. Rasheeda deserves it all." Thousands of retweets followed. Producers of Love and Hip Hop couldn't believe their luck. Cameras captured the fallout with perfect timing, and episodes teased the unraveling drama with captions like "The Frost Empire on the Brink" and "Secrets that could shatter Atlanta." In one filmed scene, Carly Red stirred the pot at a dinner, leaning toward Rasheeda and asking, "So what's it like knowing you might own everything?" "Like everything." The table froze, eyes darting between Rasheeda and Kirk. Rasheeda calmly sipped her drink, smiled slightly, and replied, "Feels overdue." Kirk slammed his fork down so hard that even the producers flinched. The fallout began spreading beyond family and cast. Business partners started calling Rasheeda directly, some quietly shifting loyalty to her. Others distanced themselves from Kirk, worried about instability. The empire's cracks were now visible to everyone, and opportunists were circling. Rumors swirled that Carly herself was negotiating with Rasheeda for a boutique collaboration, a move fans dubbed the ultimate betrayal. At home, Kirk tried to regroup. He attempted to sit down with Rasheeda, speaking softer this time, almost pleading. "We don't gotta do it like this. We can fix it. You and me. Together. Forget Jasmine. Forget all of that. Let's rebuild." Rasheeda didn't even look up from her laptop. "You only want to rebuild now that you're losing everything. Where was this energy when I was begging for respect?" Her words cut deeper than any lawsuit could, and Kirk sat there in silence. Realizing she was no longer his partner, she was his opponent. Jasmine, growing desperate, reached out to bloggers with promises of bombshells. One YouTube gossip channel teased an exclusive interview where Jasmine would expose everything Kirk and Rasheeda don't want you to know. The promo clip alone racked up hundreds of thousands of views, with Jasmine's voiceover saying, "Y'all think you know the Frost story. Trust me, you don't." The comment sections exploded, fans arguing over whether she was telling the truth or just clawing for attention. Behind the scenes, Rasheeda prepared for that too. Her lawyers had already drafted cease and desist letters, ready to pounce on any defamatory claims. She wasn't just fighting for control of the empire, she was protecting the brand she had built brick by brick. And to many fans, her silence, her poise, and her refusal to clap back online only made her seem stronger. By now, the Frost household was barely functioning. Arguments replaced dinners. Cold stares replaced conversations. The children, caught in the middle, avoided the tension as best they could. But even they noticed that the empire they had grown up in was collapsing before their eyes. And just when the storm seemed at its peak, new whispers hit the streets of Atlanta. Someone close to the Frosts hinted that Rasheeda had uncovered not only Kirk's shady business deals, but also evidence that Jasmine may have been benefiting financially in ways no one had imagined. If true, Jasmine wouldn't just be cut out, she could be dragged into court herself. Fans erupted again, demanding receipts, hungry for the next chapter of chaos. The Frost Empire wasn't just a family business anymore. It was a battlefield, and every player, Kirk, Rasheeda, Jasmine, was fighting for survival in ways no one saw coming. The gossip mill spun faster when Jasmine finally sat down for her teased interview. The YouTube video went live at midnight, and within hours, it hit trending lists across the platform. She sat there with glassy eyes, her voice trembling, though some claimed it was more performance than pain. "I've been painted as the villain for years," she began, staring into the camera. "But what people don't understand is, I was promised more than just a fling. Kirk told me I would be part of the Frost future. He made me believe I had a stake in what they built. And now Rasheeda wants to erase me like I never existed." Her words struck a nerve, igniting debates across social media. The interviewer leaned forward, pressing her for details. Jasmine smirked faintly. Let's just say there are businesses out there running under names y'all ain't even seen. And guess who signed those papers? Not Rasheeda, not Kirk me. She held up what looked like photocopies of documents, names redacted, but signatures visible. The host gasped dramatically. Fans clipped the footage, and the speculation ballooned. Was Jasmine telling the truth, or just clinging to relevance with forged papers? Kirk, watching from his phone, exploded with rage. He stormed around his condo, muttering curses under his breath. To him, Jasmine wasn't just dangerous, she was a liability he couldn't control anymore. He called her phone over and over, but she ignored him, relishing the attention her interview was getting. By morning, her name was everywhere. With hashtags like hashtag Jasmine tells all and hashtag Frost exposed battling against hashtag stand, with RASHEEDA. The family drama had spilled fully into the public eye, with no way to contain it. Rasheeda, however, didn't flinch, while Jasmine basked in the spotlight. She was finalizing another legal filing that targeted not just Kirk but anyone financially tied to Jim, including Jasmine. Her lawyers crafted a narrative of fraud, of unauthorized deals, of money siphoned into side projects that never had Rasheeda's approval. The filing hit the courts like a thunderclap, and fans immediately connected it to Jasmine's evidence. Too many. It looked like Rasheeda had predicted Jasmine's every move and was cutting her off at the knees. The fallout reached the Love and Hip Hop set once again. During a group dinner scene, Carly Red couldn't resist stirring trouble. So, Jasmine, she said with a mischievous grin, how's it feel knowing Rasheeda just slapped you with a legal notice? Jasmine's face turned red, her chair scraping as she stood. She thinks she's untouchable, but I got receipts too, she shouted, waving her phone in the air. Rasheeda didn't even rise from her seat. She calmly looked Jasmine dead in the eye and said, the difference is, my receipts actually matter. The room erupted. Cast members gasped. Producers whispered excitedly, and fans later flooded Twitter with clips captioned, "This is history." Behind the cameras, Kirk tried to pull Jasmine aside, whispering urgently, "You need to chill before you make it worse." But Jasmine jerked away from him, hissing, "You made this mess. Now you're scared of the woman you used to control. I'm not going down quiet." The confrontation spilled out into the parking lot. Paparazzi capturing blurred shots of Jasmine screaming at Kirk, her fingers stabbing the air toward his chest. Meanwhile, Rasheeda's quiet, almost eerie calmness began winning her powerful allies. Industry contacts who had once sided with Kirk now reached out to her, offering partnerships and collaborations. A major retailer even hinted at expanding pressed boutiques nationally, but only if Rasheeda had full control. It was the validation she had been waiting for. Proof that her empire could grow stronger without Kirk's shadow looming over it. At home, the tension hit breaking point. Kirk confronted Rasheeda late one night in their living room, his voice cracking with desperation. "You're gonna destroy everything we built, everything our kids stand on." Rasheeda, without looking up from the papers she was reviewing, said softly, "No, Kirk, I'm saving it. You already destroyed us a long time ago." Her words cut him so deeply that he was left speechless, pacing the floor like a man caged in his own mistakes. Jasmine, unwilling to give up, doubled down with more threats. On Instagram Live, she teased that she had a recording of Kirk promising her shares in Frost businesses. "He looked me in the eye and told me I was part of this family," she declared, tears streaking her cheeks. "If he wants to pretend it didn't happen, I'll let the world hear it." Fans begged her to release the tape, while others accused her of bluffing. The anticipation was electric. Everyone waited for the bomb to drop. But what Jasmine didn't know was that Rasheeda's team was already ahead of her. They secured injunctions, warning that releasing such recordings could result in legal consequences. Jasmine now stood at a crossroads: expose Kirk and risk being dragged into court herself, or stay quiet and watch her influence fade. Her silence the following days only deepened the mystery. The empire's fracture lines were now gaping cracks. Kirk, cornered by two women, one seeking control, the other seeking revenge, looked more broken than ever. His once proud image as the patriarch of the Frost family now appeared pathetic, desperate, even irrelevant. And as Rasheeda's filings gained momentum, it became clear, the Frost Empire wasn't Kirk's anymore. The Queen had seized the throne, and the kingdom was trembling under her rule. The gossip mill spun faster when Jasmine finally sat down for her teased interview. The YouTube video went live at midnight, and within hours, it hit trending lists across the platform. She sat there with glassy eyes, her voice trembling, though some claimed it was more performance than pain. "I've been painted as the villain for years," she began, staring into the camera. "But what people don't understand is, I was promised more than just a fling. Kirk told me I would be part of the Frost future. He made me believe I had a stake in what they built. And now Rasheeda wants to erase me like I never existed. Her words struck a nerve, igniting debates across social media. The interviewer leaned forward, pressing her for details. Jasmine smirked faintly. Let's just say there are businesses out there running under names y'all ain't even seen. And guess who signed those papers? Not Rasheeda, not Kirk me. She held up what looked like photocopies of documents, names redacted, but signatures visible. The host gasped dramatically. Fans clipped the footage, and the speculation ballooned. Was Jasmine telling the truth, or just clinging to relevance with forged papers? Kirk, watching from his phone, exploded with rage. He stormed around his condo, muttering curses under his breath. To him, Jasmine wasn't just dangerous, she was a liability he couldn't control anymore. He called her phone over and over, but she ignored him, relishing the attention her interview was getting. By morning, her name was everywhere. With hashtags like hashtag Jasmine tells all and hashtag Frost exposed battling against hashtag stand, with RASHEEDA. The family drama had spilled fully into the public eye, with no way to contain it. Rasheeda, however, didn't flinch, while Jasmine basked in the spotlight. She was finalizing another legal filing that targeted not just Kirk but anyone financially tied to Jim, including Jasmine. Her lawyers crafted a narrative of fraud, of unauthorized deals, of money siphoned into side projects that never had Rasheeda's approval. The filing hit the courts like a thunderclap, and fans immediately connected it to Jasmine's evidence. Too many. It looked like Rasheeda had predicted Jasmine's every move and was cutting her off at the knees. The fallout reached the Love and Hip Hop set once again. During a group dinner scene, Carly Red couldn't resist stirring trouble. So, Jasmine, she said with a mischievous grin, how's it feel knowing Rasheeda just slapped you with a legal notice? Jasmine's face turned red, her chair scraping as she stood. She thinks she's untouchable. But I got receipts too, she shouted, waving her phone in the air. Rasheeda didn't even rise from her seat. She calmly looked Jasmine dead in the eye and said, the difference is, my receipts actually matter. The room erupted. Cast members gasped, producers whispered excitedly, and fans later flooded Twitter with clips captioned, "This is history." Behind the cameras, Kirk tried to pull Jasmine aside, whispering urgently, "You need to chill before you make it worse." But Jasmine jerked away from him, hissing, "You made this mess. Now you're scared of the woman you used to control. I'm not going down quiet." The confrontation spilled out into the parking lot. Paparazzi capturing blurred shots of Jasmine screaming at Kirk, her finger stabbing the air toward his chest. Meanwhile, Rasheeda's quiet, almost eerie calmness began winning her powerful allies. Industry contacts who had once sided with Kirk now reached out to her, offering partnerships and collaborations. A major retailer even hinted at expanding pressed boutiques nationally, but only if Rasheeda had full control. It was the validation she had been waiting for. Proof that her empire could grow stronger without Kirk's shadow looming over it. At home, the tension hit breaking point. Kirk confronted Rasheeda late one night in their living room, his voice cracking with desperation. "You're gonna destroy everything we built, everything our kids stand on." Rasheeda, without looking up from the papers she was reviewing, said softly, "No, Kirk, I'm saving it. You already destroyed us a long time ago." Her words cut him so deeply that he was left speechless, pacing the floor like a man caged in his own mistakes. Jasmine, unwilling to give up, doubled down with more threats. On Instagram Live, she teased that she had a recording of Kirk promising her shares in Frost businesses. "He looked me in the eye and told me I was part of this family," she declared, tears streaking her cheeks. "If he wants to pretend it didn't happen, I'll let the world hear it." Fans begged her to release the tape, while others accused her of bluffing. The anticipation was electric. Everyone waited for the bomb to drop. But what Jasmine didn't know was that Rasheeda's team was already ahead of her. They secured injunctions, warning that releasing such recordings could result in legal consequences. Jasmine now stood at a crossroads: expose Kirk and risk being dragged into court herself, or stay quiet and watch her influence fade. Her silence the following days only deepened the mystery. The empire's fracture lines were now gaping cracks. Kirk, cornered by two women, one seeking control, the other seeking revenge, looked more broken than ever. His once proud image as the patriarch of the Frost family now appeared pathetic, desperate, even irrelevant. And as Rasheeda's filings gained momentum, it became clear the Frost Empire wasn't Kirk's anymore. The Queen had seized the throne, and the kingdom was trembling under her rule. The storm reached a level no one could have imagined. Atlanta was no longer whispering, it was roaring with gossip. Every radio host, every gossip blogger, every shade room commentator was locked in on the Frost drama. The city had seen its share of scandals, but this one had claws that dug into family, business, love, betrayal, and the future of an empire. People on the streets debated like it was politics. Team Rasheeda, Team Kirk, Team Jasmine, dividing households, friend groups, even barbershops and salons. The Frost name had become bigger than the music, bigger than the boutiques, bigger than love and hip-hop itself. It had become a symbol of power and survival, and everyone wanted to know who would come out on top. Kirk's days became a nightmare loop. Wake up to missed calls from lawyers, scroll through headlines that tore his reputation apart, fight with Jasmine over her recklessness, and then face Rasheeda's icy silence at home. She had transformed into someone untouchable. She wasn't shouting or crying like she used to on the show. She wasn't begging for respect. She was a woman with paperwork, strategy, and an army of lawyers who knew how to bury him alive in the fine print. Every night, Kirk replayed the years in his head, the choices that brought him here. He remembered the nights with Jasmine, the thrill, the arrogance, the assumption that Rasheeda would always forgive. And now she was slipping the crown off his head without breaking a sweat. Jasmine wasn't any calmer. Her paranoia grew with each passing day. Friends described her pacing her apartment, chain-smoking, ranting about how Rasheeda couldn't win. She doesn't deserve it all. She doesn't. He promised me. She cried one night, slamming her glass on the counter. But when those same friends suggested she cool down, maybe even step back, Jasmine hissed, "If I disappear, then they both win. I'd rather set the whole thing on fire." And so she did. Another late-night post shook social media. This time, Jasmine uploaded an audio snippet. It was Kirk's voice, unmistakable, low and hushed. "Don't worry, you'll be taken care of. You got a stake in this too. Just stay quiet, all right." The clip was short, grainy, and cut off before context could be clear, but it was enough. Fans went wild. To them, this was confirmation that Kirk had indeed promised Jasmine a place in the Frost Empire. Screenshots of the audio clip's waveform trended with captions like "She wasn't lying after all" and "Kirk Frost caught in 4K. Kirk exploded when he heard. He barged into Jasmine's place, screaming, "You just ruined me. Do you understand what you've done?" Jasmine, defiant, stared him down. "No. Kirk, you ruined yourself. You thought you could juggle me and Rasheeda forever. Well, guess what? I'm done being quiet." The neighbors claimed the fight was so loud, police were almost called. The tension was boiling into something dangerous. Meanwhile, Rasheeda was unbothered. In fact, she leveraged Jasmine's leak in her filings. Her lawyers argued that the audio proved Kirk had been secretly offering parts of their empire without legal authority. The judge scheduled an emergency hearing, and suddenly, Kirk wasn't just facing gossip, he was facing court. The Frost Empire was about to be dragged into legal spotlight, with fans speculating about televised hearings, leaked depositions, and even the possibility of federal eyes on Frost finances. Inside the Frost household, their kids could no longer ignore the chaos. At dinner, one of them asked, "Mom, Dad, are we still a family?" Rasheeda's eyes softened for the first time in weeks. She reached over, squeezing her child's hand. "We'll always be family, baby. But sometimes, family needs to be rebuilt." Kirk sat frozen, guilt etched into his face. The cameras later captured that moment for the show, and fans described it as one of the most heartbreaking scenes ever filmed in the franchise's history. Social media split in half. Some argued Rasheeda was too cold, turning her family into a battlefield for power. Others praised her for being the strongest woman on the show, finally showing Kirk and every man like him that loyalty had limits. Jasmine, of course, became the wild card. Her fans claimed she was brave for exposing Kirk. Her critics said she was desperate, clinging to relevancy through chaos. But no one could deny she was shaping the story as much as Rasheeda and Kirk. And just when people thought the scandal had hit its peak, another twist landed. Court records revealed that Rasheeda wasn't only asking for Frost businesses, she was also petitioning for a forensic audit of all accounts tied to Kirk over the past decade. That meant hidden funds, secret deals, offshore accounts. If any of it existed, it would be dragged into the light. Suddenly, this wasn't just about who ran pressed or managed music catalogs. This was about the empire's skeletons being unearthed in public. Fans tweeted, "This is bigger than LHHATL now. This is Frost Empire versus the world." Kirk's allies began to fall away. Longtime partners backed out of deals. Even his own friends hesitated to stand beside him in public. Rasheeda, on the other hand, gained momentum. She was invited to women in business panels, praised in magazines, and called a symbol of strength for standing her ground. Every public appearance she made seemed to add fuel to her fire, while Kirk dwindled in the shadows. His once proud posture reduced to slumped shoulders. Jasmine's role grew even messier. Rumors spread that she was negotiating with producers for her own spin-off special, where she would tell the truth of the Frosts. Fans groaned, others cheered, but it was clear, she had no intention of fading away quietly. Whether Rasheeda succeeded in cutting her off or not, Jasmine was determined to write herself into the Empire's legacy. The Frost Empire, once so carefully branded as a mix of hustle, family, and Atlanta flair, was now a circus of betrayal, lawsuits, leaked secrets, and collapsing alliances. The question was no longer who will win, it was, who will survive, because one thing was clear when Rasheeda made her silent move for power. She set in motion a chain reaction that none of them could stop. And as one insider whispered to a gossip blog, "This ain't the end. Rasheeda's got more cards to play." The question is, will Kirk and Jasmine even be standing when she's done? Did you know that in real-life corporate battles, forensic audits often uncover millions hidden in shell companies, sometimes even taking down entire empires overnight? The whispers about a forensic audit spread through Atlanta faster than wildfire. Industry insiders began exchanging nervous calls, wondering which one of Kirk's past deals might surface, which hidden accounts might be exposed. Old collaborators who once bragged about being part of the Frost Circle suddenly scrubbed their socials of pictures with him. The air carried a chill of betrayal, the type that only comes when money and secrets hang heavy over a city already addicted to drama. Rasheeda, meanwhile, walked into every courtroom, every boutique, every event with an aura so unshaken that fans online started calling her the Silent Queen. She didn't need to scream. She didn't need to clap back online. Her silence was the clapback. And every move she made seemed to tighten the noose around Kirk and Jasmine. One evening, as cameras rolled for Love and Hip Hop, the cast gathered at an Atlanta rooftop lounge. The city lights shimmered below, but the tension at the table outshone it all. Kirk arrived first, his face worn, eyes red from nights of no sleep. Moments later, Rasheeda appeared, sleek in a tailored black jumpsuit, exuding authority. Jasmine was already there, dressed provocatively, daring anyone to silence her. The setup was perfect for the explosion that was about to erupt. Carly Red, of course, wasted no time. She leaned forward, chin resting on her hand, and purred. "So, Rasheeda, how's it feel knowing the whole city says you own Kirk now? Papers don't lie, boo." The table erupted in nervous laughter and gasps. Kirk slammed his glass down, his voice rising. "This is my empire. Mine. Y'all think I'm just gonna sit here and let her erase me?" Rasheeda barely glanced at him, her tone calm, almost dismissive. "Erase you? Baby, you erased yourself years ago. All I did was pick up the pen and write the ending." The words cut deep, sharper than any insult Kirk had faced before. His fists clenched, his pride shattered in front of cameras, cast, and millions of fans who would soon watch this moment unfold. Jasmine seized the moment, her voice shrill. "And what about me? Huh? You think you can just cut me out like I'm nothing?" "Kirk promised me," Rasheeda interrupted with a cold laugh. "Promised you? Girl, the only promise he ever kept was embarrassing me. And you helped him do it." The lounge froze. The cast shifted uncomfortably, torn between gasping and sipping their drinks to stay out of the line of fire. The producers knew they had struck gold. This wasn't scripted drama. This was raw, unfiltered war. They leaned into every second, zooming in on Kirk's trembling jaw, Jasmine's flushed face, Rasheeda's icy composure. The scene would later become one of the most iconic moments in the franchise's history. Replayed endlessly on social media with captions like, "When the Queen finally takes her throne." Behind the cameras, though things spiraled further, Kirk followed Rasheeda out to the parking lot, his voice breaking as he tried to catch her before she got into her car. "Don't do this to me, please. We can fix this." She paused, turning just enough to let him see her face. "You don't get to say we anymore. You lost that right when you brought her into my life. I'm not fixing us, Kirk. I'm fixing me." With that, she slid into her car and drove away, leaving him standing alone in the dark. Jasmine, watching from a distance, smirked at first, but the smirk quickly faded. She realized that Kirk was no longer the powerful man who had promised her security. He was broken, a man drowning in his own mistakes. And if Rasheeda succeeded, Jasmine would have nothing to cling to but old receipts and fading relevance. The next morning, gossip blogs dropped a bombshell. Court documents revealed that Rasheeda had gained temporary full control of Pressed boutiques pending further hearings. The judge acknowledged her role as founder and primary manager, freezing Kirk's authority until the audit was complete. Fans erupted online, celebrating with tweets like, "This ain't love and hip-hop no more, this love in courtroom." And Rasheeda just showed every woman what leveling up looks like. Kirk, however, wasn't done fighting. He met with his lawyers, desperate to dig up dirt on Rasheeda that could flip the case. "Find me something," he demanded. "Anything. I don't care if it's her taxes, her contracts, her mistakes, find it and use it." His lawyers, though, warned him, "If the audit goes forward, it's not her past that's dangerous, it's yours." Kirk's face paled, his bravado cracking again. Meanwhile, Jasmine began feeling the weight of her own choices. The gossip bloggers who once cheered her now turned, questioning her motives. Headlines read, "Is Jasmine playing victim or master manipulator? And did Kirk's side chick just destroy her own future?" She fought back online, posting long captions about loyalty and betrayal, but the comments were brutal. "Sis, you inserted yourself into a marriage. You reap what you sow." Another wrote, "Nobody told you to build your future on another woman's husband." But Jasmine wasn't ready to give up. She called Kirk, her voice urgent. "If she drags me into this audit, I'm exposing everything. Don't test me." Kirk rubbed his temples, torn between fear and frustration. "Jasmine, if you do that, you'll bury us both." She snapped back. "At least I'll go down swinging. Can you say the same?" Rasheeda, watching all of this unfold, stayed 2 steps ahead. Every move Kirk and Jasmine made, she anticipated. Every threat they issued, she countered with silence and paperwork. Her strength became a rallying cry. Women across Atlanta praised her as a model of resilience. Bloggers dubbed her the boss chick of the South. Even national outlets began picking up the story, framing her as a woman, reclaiming her power after years of public humiliation. And just when people thought Rasheeda had reached her peak, another twist dropped. Leaked emails surfaced, allegedly from Kirk's business accounts, showing questionable transfers to shell companies. The amounts were large enough to raise eyebrows, and though authenticity wasn't confirmed, fans instantly connected the dots. If true, the audit could expose more than infidelity, and betrayal it could expose financial crimes. The Frost empire wasn't just breaking apart, it was imploding. The courtroom became the new stage for the Frost family, and the drama was bigger than any reunion episode Love and Hip Hop had ever aired. Cameras weren't allowed inside, but that didn't matter. Bloggers, fans, and insiders leaked every detail like it was breaking news. People lined up outside just to catch a glimpse of Rasheeda in her sharp suits, striding into the courthouse like she had been preparing for this moment her entire life. Kirk showed up too, but where Rasheeda exuded calm confidence, Kirk looked weighed down by his own mistakes. Fans whispered that his once proud walk now resembled a man marching toward defeat. Inside, lawyers sparred like gladiators. Rasheeda's team painted her as the true backbone of the Frost empire, the woman who had built Prest from scratch, who carried the family's image through humiliation, and who had been sidelined while Kirk made reckless decisions. Kirk's lawyers tried to counter, arguing that Rasheeda was acting out of vengeance, that she was weaponizing the courts to punish him for past infidelity. But the judge's expression made it clear. Evidence spoke louder than excuses. Then came the first bombshell. Bank statements revealed questionable transfers, large sums moving from Frost accounts into companies that had little to no paper trail. The timing of the transfers matched suspiciously with Kirk's late-night trips and Jasmine's sudden lifestyle upgrades. The courtroom gasped, Rasheeda's lawyers pressed harder, and Kirk's face drained of color. He leaned toward his lawyer, whispering frantically, but the damage was done. Outside, fans took to Twitter, writing, "Not the Frost empire turning into an episode of American Greed, and Kirk out here moving money like he's Pablo." Jasmine was summoned to testify, and her entrance was nothing short of theatrical. She walked in wearing a bold red dress, her chin high, determined to show she wasn't afraid. But under oath, her confidence cracked. When asked if she benefited financially from Kirk's businesses, her answers grew shaky. "I mean, he helped me out. Yeah, but that doesn't mean I was part of the empire," she stammered. The lawyer pressed harder. "Ms. Washington, did Kirk ever promise you shares or ownership in any Frost businesses?" Jasmine hesitated too long. Her silence screamed louder than any answer. Gasps rippled through the courtroom, and within minutes, gossip sites plastered the moment everywhere. Jasmine caught off guard in court. Outside, fans argued endlessly. Some insisted Jasmine was finally getting exposed. Others claimed she was a scapegoat in Rasheeda's power play. Hashtags trended hourly. Hashtag Team Rasheeda. Hashtag Free Kirk. Hashtag Jasmine the Mess. The Frost drama had stopped being just a storyline. It had become cultural currency, the drama everyone had an opinion about. Back at home, the Frost household felt like a war zone. Kirk barely spoke, pacing the floors, slamming doors, muttering about betrayal. Rasheeda, on the other hand, operated like a CEO. She held conference calls from the dining room, her laptop filled with spreadsheets, contracts, and expansion plans for preschool. Their children watched quietly, knowing the balance of power in their family had shifted forever. One night, Kirk tried to plead with Rasheeda. "We don't have to do this in front of the whole world. We can sit down, figure it out, keep our legacy intact." She didn't even look up. "Legacy? You burned that down the day you made me fight for respect in front of the cameras. This isn't about you anymore, Kirk. It's about what's mine." Jasmine, isolated and desperate, turned to social media again. She went live in tears, insisting that she wasn't the villain. "They're painting me out like I'm some homewrecker who tried to steal an empire. I was promised things. I was lied to. I was used." The comments were merciless. Some fans called her delusional, others accused her of playing victim for sympathy. Still, her livestream racked up millions of views, and once again, the Frost saga dominated every headline. The producers of Love and Hip Hop couldn't believe their luck. They teased the upcoming season with trailers showing Rasheeda slamming court papers onto a table, Kirk storming out of scenes, and Jasmine breaking down in tears. Fans flooded comment sections with excitement. This about to be the most legendary season ever. Ratings projections soared before the season even aired. But the real twist came not on television, but in court. A whistleblower, a former Frost accountant, stepped forward with claims that Kirk had been hiding assets overseas. The revelation rocked the courtroom. Rasheeda's lawyers seized the opportunity, arguing that this wasn't just a family feud, it was fraud, plain and simple. Kirk's face turned ghostly as the judge ordered further investigation. For the first time, whispers of potential criminal charges floated through the air. The empire wasn't just slipping from Kirk's hands, it was collapsing in real time. Jasmine feared she would be dragged down to, and Rasheeda tightened her grip on the throne she had fought silently for years to claim. Atlanta had seen many scandals, but nothing like this. This wasn't just gossip anymore. This was the Frost Empire on trial, with love, betrayal, and millions of dollars hanging in the balance. And just when the storm seemed too heavy to bear, another rumor surfaced. Rasheeda wasn't just fighting to own the Frost Empire. She was already making moves to rebrand it entirely without Kirk's name attached at all. The idea alone shook the city. Was the Frost name about to be erased forever, replaced by something entirely The city held its breath. The empire wasn't just cracking, it was about to be rewritten. Rasheeda's plan to rebrand the empire sent shockwaves through Atlanta. For years, the Frost name had been stamped on businesses, contracts, and the family's public image. It was the badge Kirk wore proudly, the shield he used whenever his scandals threatened to collapse around him. Now, whispers suggested Rasheeda was ready to strip that name away entirely, replacing it with her own. Insiders claimed she had already filed for new trademarks, her initials, her boutique's name, even a sleek new logo that symbolized independence. To fans, this was more than a business move. It was a declaration of war. At the courthouse, the tension was unbearable. Kirk sat at the defendant's table, his suit crisp but his eyes hollow. He muttered under his breath, shaking his head as Rasheeda's lawyers laid out documents showing her trademarks were filed. Weeks before he even knew about the audit, she planned this the whole time. Kirk hissed to his attorney. This wasn't no reaction. This was a setup. But deep down, he knew it wasn't a setup. It was strategy, the kind of strategy he never believed Rasheeda capable of, because he had always underestimated her. Jasmine, dragged back into the spotlight, faced the pressure of her own unraveling lies. The prosecutors questioned her again about Kirk's alleged promises. This time, she admitted he had talked about giving her a share, but when pressed for proof, she faltered. The audio clip wasn't enough. The documents she waved online couldn't hold up in court. The judge reminded her sternly that false testimony could land her in trouble. Tears welled in her eyes as she muttered, "I just wanted what was promised." The courtroom buzzed with whispers. Fans outside live tweeting every word. Jasmine folds under pressure. Meanwhile, Rasheeda sat still as stone. She didn't gloat, she didn't smirk. Her silence was louder than any outburst. To those watching, it became clear. She wasn't just fighting for herself. She was making an example. Every woman who had been humiliated, cheated on, or dismissed saw themselves in her. And they rallied behind her with ferocity. Kirk's allies grew fewer by the day. Old friends stopped returning calls. His businesses faced quiet withdrawals from partners. Even some family members hesitated to show support, afraid of being tied to the crumbling empire. Kirk, once the patriarch who controlled every room, was now isolated, his empire slipping through his fingers in plain view of millions. Back at home, the arguments between Kirk and Rasheeda reached a new level. One night, cameras captured Kirk shouting, "You're tearing everything apart just to prove a point." Rasheeda fired back, her voice steady but cutting. "No, Kirk. I'm building something new because you already tore everything apart. I'm not proving a point. I'm proving I can survive without you." That scene would later become a centerpiece of the season's trailer. Fans dissecting every word, every glare, every pause. Jasmine, desperate for relevance, launched another live session. This time, she claimed she had messages from Kirk that would prove he promised her a cut of the empire. She scrolled through screenshots, late-night texts filled with vague reassurances like "I got you, and you'll be good. Just wait." But fans weren't convinced. The comments section lit up with ridicule. "Sis, he was lying to keep you quiet." Another wrote, "That's not a contract. That's pillow talk." Jasmine ended the live abruptly, throwing her phone, her face collapsing into her hands. The producers of Love and Hip Hop fanned the flames. They teased an explosive mid-season special titled The Frost Empire at War, with snippets of Rasheeda walking confidently into court, Kirk wiping sweat from his brow, and Jasmine sobbing backstage. The promo went viral overnight, with fans tweeting, "This isn't a show anymore, this is history." And then came the final twist no one saw coming, leaked documents suggested. Rasheeda wasn't just fighting to control the Frost Empire, she was preparing to launch a completely new venture. One that would overshadow everything Kirk had built. Rumors swirled of a national chain of pressed boutiques, a clothing line backed by major investors, and even a reality spin-off that would focus solely on her journey as a business mogul. If true, Kirk's empire wouldn't just shrink, it would be erased, rewritten with Rasheeda's name on top. Kirk, cornered and humiliated, made one last desperate move. He showed up uninvited at Rasheeda's boutique, cameras rolling, his voice cracking as he begged, "Don't do this, please. You don't need to erase me. We can find a way to fix it." Rasheeda looked him dead in the eyes, her voice low and sharp. "You erased yourself the moment you put her before us. Now I'm just writing the final chapter." She turned away, leaving him standing in the middle of her empire, a ghost in what used to be his kingdom. The city buzzed louder than ever. Fans debated if Kirk deserved redemption, if Jasmine would survive the fallout, and if Rasheeda was truly about to pull off the greatest takeover in Love and Hip Hop history. The Frost name trembled on the edge of extinction, while Rasheeda's crown gleamed brighter with every step she took. Atlanta wasn't just watching anymore, the whole world was. The day the judge set for closing arguments felt like the Super Bowl of scandal. News vans lined the curb, fans crowded behind barricades with handmade signs, some shouting for Rasheeda, some pleading for forgiveness for Kirk, a handful waving justice for Jasmine, posters like they were rooting for the underdog in a prize fight. A light drizzle misted the courthouse steps, but the crowd didn't budge. They wanted a front row seat to a dynasty's last breath. Inside, the temperature felt 10 degrees colder. Kirk sat rigid, jaw clenched, hands folded so tightly his knuckles blanched. Rasheeda, immaculate in a slate gray suit, didn't fidget once. She studied exhibits like a surgeon about to operate. Jasmine hovered behind counsel, face perfectly made up but eyes rimmed with a fatigue that even the best concealer couldn't bury. Whispers swirled along the benches. Someone said the accountant had returned with new files. Someone else swore there was a sealed envelope with a bombshell inside. The bailiff called for order, and the room stilled into a tense hush that pressed against the walls. Rasheeda's lead attorney rose first, voice measured and unhurried. He told the judge a simple story, a brand built on Rasheeda's labor and image, then diluted by reckless side deals, unapproved promises, and shell games that left her carrying both the profit engine and the public shame. He projected timelines, showed internal texts, replayed snippets of the leaked audio, and, without raising his voice, made it plain. My client kept the lights on. My client steadied the ship while Mr. Frost chased storms. She isn't asking for revenge. She is asking for stewardship over what she built, so it can survive. A murmur rippled through the gallery. The words landed heavy. Kirk's counsel went next, pacing with the swagger of a man trying to conjure gravity out of thin air. He painted Rasheeda as vindictive, a scorned spouse seeking to salt the earth. Partnership, he said, tapping the podium. They were partners. She can't erase that history because of hurt feelings. He called the audit overreach, the leaks ambiguous, and the accountant disgruntled. The judge's face remained unreadable, but the room felt the argument straining against the tide. Then the judge asked a question no one expected. Counsel, before I rule on management control, I want clarity on one item raised yesterday under seal. Bring in the supplemental witness. Heads tilted, phones in pockets vibrated as bloggers texted frantically. A side door opened, and a slender woman stepped in with a leather binder clutched to her chest. She introduced herself as a consultant who had helped reorganize inventory systems for pre-stirring what she called the dark months, when sales dipped and tabloids wouldn't stop feeding on the Frosts. She spoke softly, but every word sharpened the air. Mrs. Frost approved the new systems. She renegotiated supplier terms. She cut shrink by 19%. She instituted fraud flags when a side account started ordering off book racks. She glanced toward Kirk. That side account used Mr. Frost's authority code. Kirk's lawyer objected, but the consultant produced purchase orders, emails, and audit pings, each signed by managers whose names matched prior exhibits. The judge leaned forward, scanning the binder. The consultant didn't smile, didn't smirk. She just told the story of a shop that should have drowned and the woman who hauled it to shore. When cross-examination came, Kirk's lawyer pressed hard. Isn't it true you were paid a bonus for cutting expenses? Weren't you incentivized to make Mr. Frost look careless? The consultant didn't blink. I was incentivized to keep the business alive. The numbers are the numbers. He tried to rattle her, but the binder never left her hands, and the facts didn't blink. A recess followed, and the hallway exploded. Cast members who'd come to watch hugged the far wall to avoid being pulled into on-camera comment wars. Carly Red whispered to a producer that they needed a confessional booth on the courthouse lawn. Someone laughed. Someone else wiped tears. A runner told a blogger that the judge had asked the clerk for a copy of the sealed envelope. On cue, phones lit up with push alerts. Sealed evidence could decide Frost case. The crowd outside swayed as if a gust of wind had hit it. Back inside, the judge returned with that envelope. She broke the seal, skimmed, and frowned with the kind of frown that travels like thunder. There is a prenuptial addendum, she said, and the room inhaled as one. Executed during Season 8's hiatus, it designates managerial prerogative to Mrs. Frost over any branded retail enterprise carrying her likeness, trademarks, or personage, should marital conduct cause reputational harm that materially affects sales. Her eyes lifted. It appears this was countersigned by both parties. Kirk shot to his feet. That's not. His lawyer yanked him down. The judge continued. The addendum is narrow, but clear. This goes to operational control, not community division. Property division will be addressed separately. For now, we are speaking about who steers the ship. A low, stunned moan rolled through the gallery. Rasheeda didn't move. She stared straight ahead, breathing evenly, as if she had seen this page in her mind every night for months. Jasmine, who had been stone still, suddenly flinched like she'd been slapped. Her whisper was audible in the silence. He signed that. She stared at Kirk. He didn't look back. The judge asked for brief closing. Rasheeda's attorney stood and, with almost painful restraint, said, "We asked the court to let the person who kept the lights on keep them on." Kirk's counsel tried to salvage ground, arguing that reputational harm was subjective and that the clause was a cudgel for punishing old sins. The judge took notes, thanked them, and recessed again. Outside, the sky broke open with a steady rain, and still no one left. Umbrellas popped like blossoms. Someone started a chant for Rasheeda. Someone else shouted back that families shouldn't be dismantled on television. Two rival radio hosts argued live on air, each refusing to cede the mic. The city fed on the spectacle like it had been starved for years. When court reconvened, the judge read from a 4-page order on the matter of interim managerial control of pressed retail and associated entities bearing Ms. Rasheeda Buckner Frost's likeness and registered marks. The court grants temporary exclusive managerial authority to Mrs. Buckner, pending final disposition. Mr. Frost is enjoined from executing contracts, moving funds, or representing managerial authority in these entities without written consent. Gasps, cries, a choked sob sound broke like glass. The judge wasn't done. On the matter of alleged unauthorized promises of equity to third parties not party to the marital contract, the court makes no finding at this time as to enforceability, but notes a substantial risk of misrepresentation and refers related transactions to the forensic examiner for continued review. She looked toward the tables. This is not punishment, it is triage. Kirk's shoulders slumped. In that instant, the bluster evaporated, and a man was left, small in a world he thought he owned. Jasmine covered her mouth. Her phone vibrated nonstop. In her messages, 3 bloggers begged for comments. One network dangled a segment, and an old friend asked a simple question. "You okay?" She typed and deleted 4 times, then slid the phone into her bag, like it weighed 20 pounds. Rasheeda stood. She did not smile. She shook her attorney's hand, gathered her case file. and walked out past the cameras with the same measured steps she'd used to walk in. The chant outside grew louder. Someone yelled that she saved the brand. Someone else yelled that she killed a marriage. The rain gleamed on her suit like metallic thread. Back at the boutique, staff had watched the ruling on a phone propped between folded denim. When the order hit, the room erupted. A manager cried openly. A junior stylist hugged a mannequin and laughed. Rasheeda arrived an hour later, hair slightly frizzed from the weather, eyes tired but bright. She called a floor meeting. "We operate clean," she said. "Every tag, every return, every register. We're going to expand, but we'll do it without chaos. If you're with me, I'm with you. If you're here for the mess, the door is right there." No one moved toward the door. That night, Jasmine went live because she couldn't stand the silence pressing on her chest. She sat in a dim apartment, mascara intact, ring light, cool and unforgiving. "Everybody wants me to be the villain again," she began. Maybe I believed promises I should have known were lies." Her voice shook, then steadied. "But I'm not the Empire. I'm not the Queen. I'm just a person who got caught in a machine that chews people up on camera." Comments poured in, some tender, many brutal. She read none of them. "I can't fight her lawyers. I can't outrun that clause. I can only say I'm done being part of anybody's storyline except my own." She ended the stream without tears and sat in the quiet, hearing the rain against the glass. Kirk drove without destination. Atlanta blurred into a smear of neon and wet asphalt. He parked outside an old studio he hadn't stepped into in years. Inside, dust filmed the console, and an out-of-tune keyboard leaned against a cracked wall. He sat on the lone stool in the dark and listened to the hum of a building that once made him feel immortal. His phone lit with an unknown number. He didn't answer. It lit again. Still no. On the third ring he picked up a voice he hadn't expected, one of the investors who'd pulled back spoke without venom. "It's over on that side, Kirk. If you want oxygen, you're going to have to stop pretending the fire isn't yours." The line clicked. The studio hummed. Days turned into a new rhythm. The injunctions held. Rasheeda signed supply deals and reworked margin structures. She met with a national retailer behind frosted glass and left with a tentative rollout plan that would triple her footprint in 6 months if the numbers kept climbing. She greenlit a capsule collection with a clean silhouette and a single line stitched inside every garment. Built, not borrowed. The mock-ups made the team tear up. She didn't cry. She penciled in production timelines and asked for packaging samples. On set, producers tried to pull Rasheeda into the usual cycle of confessionals and table flips. She gave them something different. Cool strategy. The unglamorous grind. The footage played strange against a franchise that feeds on chaos. It also felt new. Clips of her negotiating a lease outperformed screaming matches in the algorithm for the first time in a long time. Fans wrote that watching her sign a contract was more satisfying than any drink toss. Jasmine vanished from shooting for 2 weeks. When she returned, she refused to meet at lounges or parties. She asked for a single chair and a bare studio. "I have one thing to say," she told the producer. The camera blinked red. "I kept waiting for somebody to choose me. That's over." She stood, took off her mic, and walked out. The segment aired with no music, no cuts, just the quiet click of a door. It trended, and then came the aftershock. The forensic team filed an interim memo. It found irregularities in a set of vendor contracts routed through a shell that looked, on paper, like a third-party merchandising firm. The firm's owner of record, a cousin of a former Frost Road manager. The dates matched with periods when pressed inventory went missing and then miraculously appeared on a gray market discount site to states over. The memo didn't accuse, it delineated, but delineation was enough. The judge scheduled a status conference and referred the matter to a financial crimes unit for an informational review. The words were clinical. The internet turned them into sirens. Kirk showed up at Rasheeda's door the next evening with a broken look that television can't fake. She didn't open fully. The chain stayed latched. "Please," he said. "I need 5 minutes." She waited, then unhooked the chain and crossed her arms. A wall made of bone and practice. He stood on the foyer tile like a student outside the principal's office. "They're digging into the cousins now," he said. "I didn't know it was that deep. I thought it was float." He winced at the word. "Just a float." Rasheeda stared at him. "The way you look at a past you've finally told yourself the truth about. You made the brand a raft for your leaky boats," she said. "And when it started to sink, you told me to smile for the cameras." He nodded, eyes wet. "I'm sorry." The words were small and late. "I'm not your confessor," she said, softer than she felt. "If you need absolution, go to church. If you need a lawyer, you had 3. If you need a plan, You should have listened 2 years ago. He swallowed, looked down, then lifted his face with a kind of nakedness that felt like a last attempt at honesty. Tell me how to help. She shook her head. Help by not hurting. That's it. He nodded, a man understanding that the kindest door is still a door closing. The rebrand announcement landed like a meteor. A 10-second teaser. A slow pan across a fitting table. Scissors glinting. Tags that read pressed by Rasheeda. Then a hand Hearst stamping a box with the new crest. No music. Just the thok of the stamp and a breath. The caption. The work continues. The video cleared 1 million views in hours. Then comments flooded with women tagging friends, daughters, sisters. Fans wrote that they'd spent years watching her survive and now wanted to watch her build. Pre-orders opened. They jammed. On premiere night, the show aired the court order episode. The edit was lean and merciless. Kirk's face when the clause was read, Jasmine's whisper, Rasheeda's stillness. The parking lot scene, where Kirk asked for we and Rasheeda answered with me. Ratings smashed records. But something else happened too. The biggest spike came not during the arguments, but during a 3-minute montage of Rasheeda in spreadsheets, fabric swatches, and supplier calls. The network posted the clip separately. It outperformed every reunion fight from the past 3 seasons. Jasmine watched the episode alone. She didn't post. She didn't go live. She texted one person, a stylist she'd met when things were good, and asked if there was any temp work at a mid-tier showroom. The stylist said yes. It wasn't glamorous. It was work. Jasmine put the appointment in her calendar, took off her lashes, set her phone face down, and slept for 8 straight hours for the first time in months. Weeks later, the status conference was brief and bloodless. The judge praised compliance with the order, extended the injunction, and set a final management hearing for the fall. The forensic team noted substantial progress. No criminal referral yet, but the hint hung. The court adjourned in 6 minutes. Outside, there were no chants, only a few stray cameras and a chill wind that felt like season change. That night, Rasheeda stood alone in a dark boutique, lights off except for the soft glow from the back room. Boxes stacked neatly, tags faced outward, a kingdom in cardboard. She ran her hand across a counter that had seen shouting matches, reconciliations, and 1,000 small transactions that had kept a dream alive while the world argued about her marriage. Her phone buzzed once. A supplier confirmed the national rollout. Another buzz. A podcast host asked for an interview about the build, not the drama. She smiled, small and private, the kind of smile that doesn't perform. Across town, Kirk sat at a kitchen table littered with legal pads and cold coffee. He dialed a number he'd been avoiding. When the voice answered, he didn't posture. "It's me," he said. "I need to make it right." The voice on the other end didn't promise absolution, only a list of steps with verbs like disclose, amend, return. He wrote them down. For the first time, he didn't argue with the verbs. Jasmine folded denim on a quiet showroom floor, the hum of fluorescent lights replacing the roar of lives. A customer asked if a cut ran true to size. Jasmine checked the tag, glanced at the woman's frame, and answered with care. The woman smiled and said thanks. It was a tiny moment. It felt enormous. The city exhaled. The drama that had set Atlanta on fire cooled to embers, not gone, never gone, but contained enough to let people sleep. The Frost Empire was no longer a headline. It was a case file, a rollout schedule, a series of choices that would either stitch a future together or unravel it all over again. And yet, because Atlanta is Atlanta and fame is a jealous god, one more spark drifted across the night. A teaser dropped from a rival cast member's YouTube. Grainy footage, a muffled voice, a promise that the real reason that clause existed had never been told. Comments detonated, old wounds itched, new theories bloomed like night flowers. The family was left divided in people's minds again before anyone had finished their dinner. Rasheeda watched the teaser once and turned off the sound. The crest on the new boxes dried smooth. A truck idled at the curb. She locked up, slid the keys into her bag, and stepped into the damp air, not as a symbol, not as a storyline, but as a person who had chosen to keep building while the world argued about who she was allowed to be. The teaser rattled through the blogs overnight, like a rattlesnake's warning. Grainy footage, muffled whispers, and the line, "The real reason that clause existed has never been told." That was all it took. By sunrise, hashtags spiraled, hashtag clausegate, hashtag hidden deal, hashtag frostfiles. Podcasts speculated that Rasheeda had blackmail on Kirk before signing the prenuptial addendum. Twitter spun theories that Mona Scott herself engineered the clause to script better drama. Others swore it tied back to an old Frost associate who vanished from the scene years earlier. Nobody knew the truth, but everyone was sure it was explosive. At her boutique, Rasheeda sipped coffee and scrolled, her expression unreadable. Staff whispered that she'd seen the clip. She didn't mention it, didn't curse, didn't sigh. Instead, she walked to the back office and spread out production schedules across her desk. "We don't pivot for gossip," she told her assistant. "We pivot for customers." Her calm unnerved everyone. Fans online wondered if silence meant guilt, but those who knew her recognized it for what it was: strategy. Kirk, however, was far from calm. He woke to 50 missed calls and a timeline on fire with his name. Pacing his condo, he muttered, "They're gonna twist it. They always twist it." His lawyer called, urging him not to respond, but Kirk couldn't help himself. He went live, red-eyed, voice cracked, shouting, "Y'all don't know what you're talking about. That clause was business, nothing else. Don't let these haters rewrite history." The rant only made things worse. Clips of him yelling were stitched into TikToks, mocked with captions like, "Sir, you're cooked," and Kirk Frost trying to argue with paperwork. Jasmine, watching from her phone, smirked. She knew the internet smelled blood. For days, she debated whether to fuel the fire. She had nothing concrete, just half-truths and gossip she'd overheard late at night, but attention was her last currency. Finally, she DM'd the rival cast member who leaked the teaser. "Let's talk." Within hours, they met at a hookah lounge, a cameraman in tow. The footage that followed dropped like a bombshell. Jasmine sat in a velvet booth, leaning forward, whispering to the rival, "That clause. It wasn't just about the business. It was about silencing." Kirk was scared of what might come out if Rasheeda ever walked. So he gave her that clause to keep her locked in. He knew without her, the empire was nothing. The rival gasped for effect, and the cameraman zoomed in on Jasmine's serious face. The video hit YouTube within hours. Titled, "Jasmine Reveals the Secret Clause, Kirk's Hidden Fear." The internet erupted. Blogs ran with headlines. Did Kirk fear Rasheeda's exit more than we knew? Podcasts debated whether Rasheeda had dirt on Kirk beyond the infidelities. Fans speculated wildly. Hidden kids, offshore scandals, affairs with other cast members. Conspiracy threads piled up with screenshots of old episodes, circled text messages, even blurry photos that fans swore were evidence. Rasheeda didn't blink. She posted a single photo. Her in a warehouse, standing in front of stacked boxes, stamped with her new crest. The caption read, "Focus forward. Always." The photo went viral, drowning out the noise with a different energy. Supporters flooded her comments, "Unbothered queen. This is how you handle chaos." But critics still dug, demanding answers about the clause. Producers smelled gold and summoned everyone for a filmed sit-down. A long table, cast members lined up, lights hot and merciless. The host leaned in. "So, Rasheeda, can you tell us once and for all? Why did that clause exist?" The room held its breath. Kirk glared. Jasmine smirked. The cast leaned forward like spectators at a gladiator match. Rasheeda folded her hands and said, steady as stone, "Because I knew one day I'd need it. And look around. I was right." The table erupted. Carly screamed. Kirk shouted over her. Jasmine rolled her eyes. Producers shouted for order. But Rasheeda didn't raise her voice once. That moment aired weeks later as the season's climax, and it broke records. Memes exploded. TikTok edits looped her quote with dramatic music. Fans declared it the coldest line in franchise history. The clause went from gossip to legend, etched into love and hip-hop lore forever. Behind the cameras, though, the cracks deepened. Kirk faced new subpoenas tied to the forensic audit. Jasmine's exclusive lost steam as people grew tired of her recycled half-truths. Rasheeda's expansion gained traction, with Pressed by Rasheeda pop-ups selling out in multiple states. The empire wasn't just surviving, it was mutating into something Kirk no longer recognized. Something Jasmine could never touch. And yet, even as Rasheeda climbed, whispers of another envelope circulated. A sealed file, rumored to contain evidence no one had dared reveal, something that could shift the narrative yet again. Nobody knew what was inside, but everyone agreed. The Frost saga wasn't finished. Atlanta braced itself. The empire was still on trial, not in court anymore, but in the court of public opinion, where fans are judge, jury, and executioner. The rumor of the sealed file became the new obsession of Atlanta. Every podcast, every gossip blog, every late-night radio segment circled the same question: what's inside? Some swore it was proof of another secret child Kirk had hidden. Others believed it contained offshore transfers linked to shady promoters. A few even speculated it tied Jasmine to the empire more directly than anyone imagined. Nobody knew, but the mystery itself was gasoline. Court reporters confirmed that a file had been delivered under seal. Its existence was undeniable, its contents invisible. That was enough to send the city spiraling. Fans took screenshots of docket updates like they were leaks from a spy agency. Conspiracy threads blew up, with color-coded charts linking Kirk's old associates, Rasheeda's business milestones, and Jasmine's sudden lifestyle upgrades. Inside the Frost household, silence reigned heavier than ever. Kirk paced, chewing the inside of his cheek, muttering, "If it's that file, if that gets out." He never finished the thought. Rasheeda.com, as a metronome, focused on her expansion plans. She didn't need to open the file to know it worked in her favor. She'd lived too long in Kirk's shadow not to know where the skeletons were buried. Jasmine, meanwhile, grew manic. She texted friends at odd hours. "If it's the file I think it is, I'm done for." Then followed up with, "Or maybe I can spin it. Maybe I can tell my side first." Her paranoia leaked onto social media, cryptic posts about snakes, broken promises, and shadows. The producers couldn't resist. They staged a reunion-style taping and baited the cast with the question everyone wanted answered. Under the hot lights, the host leaned forward, voice syrupy with suspense. "Atlanta's been buzzing about a sealed file. Rasheeda, Kirk, Jasmine, what do y'all know about it?" The audience howled. Cameras caught Kirk wiping sweat, Jasmine shifting in her seat, Rasheeda perfectly still. After a beat, Rasheeda looked straight into the lens and said, "I know enough." The room erupted. Carly Red screamed. She said what she said. Erica fanned herself. The host tried to calm the chaos, but the clip was already destined for virality. Online, speculation hit fever pitch. Memes painted the file as Pandora's box, Rasheeda as the goddess holding the key, Kirk as the doomed mortal, trembling before fate. Fans joked that even the FBI was waiting for Rasheeda to post. Hashtags trended for days. Hashtag open the file, hashtag Frost secrets, hashtag Clausegate 2. Behind the spectacle, lawyers whispered. The file contained agreements, not gossip. Paperwork showing that years ago, Kirk had funneled partial ownership of a Frost-branded subsidiary to an outside party under the table, without Rasheeda's knowledge. And that outside party, Jasmine's mother. The revelation explained everything. The unshakable tie between Jasmine and Kirk. The way she carried herself as more than a side piece. The confidence that she had a stake. It wasn't fantasy. It was buried in black and white signatures. When this truth leaked, because leaks always find daylight, the city lost its mind. Headlines screamed, "Jasmine's mom, silent stakeholder in Frost Empire." Talk shows debated whether this made Jasmine's presence more legitimate or more poisonous. Fans gasped at the audacity. Kirk hadn't just betrayed Rasheeda with Jasmine. He had tied the entire bloodline into their empire. It was betrayal squared, multiplied, wrapped in legal ink. Rasheeda's reaction was the stuff of legend. She called a press conference, not with tears or rage, but with ledgers. Standing at a podium, she displayed charts, contracts, and projections. "Every hidden piece has now been revealed," she said calmly, "and every hidden piece is being cut away. This empire will be Frost in name no longer. It will be pressed by Rasheeda and no one else." Her voice didn't quiver. The room erupted in applause. Clips of her speech went viral, fans dubbing it the takeover address. Kirk, meanwhile, spiraled. Paparazzi caught him stumbling out of a bar, mumbling about betrayal. Jasmine locked her Instagram, comments disabled, as critics flooded her with snake emojis. Her mother refused interviews, ducking cameras with scarves pulled tight around her face. The show captured it all: the press conference, Kirk's unraveling, Jasmine's meltdown. Viewers called it the greatest arc in love and hip-hop history. A saga that blurred the line between entertainment and empire collapse. Ratings shattered records. And yet, when the dust settled, one truth remained. Rasheeda had not only seized control, she had rewritten the empire in her image. The Frost dynasty, once Kirk's pride, now belonged to the woman he had underestimated. The sealed file hadn't destroyed her, it had crowned her. But as Atlanta knows, crowns attract challengers. And in the shadows, whispers of yet another secret began to stir. Something Rasheeda herself might not be ready for. And now, after everything, the whispers, the court filings, the bombshells, the betrayals, and that sealed file revelation, one thing is clear. The Frost Empire will never be the same again. Rasheeda has stepped fully into her power. Kirk is left reeling from the empire he let slip away. And Jasmine finds herself stranded in the fallout of secrets too big to bury. The family is divided, the fans are in shock, and Atlanta is buzzing like never before. But the story doesn't end here. What happens next? Will Kirk fight for redemption, or fade into the background as Rasheeda builds something bigger than anyone imagined? Can Jasmine claw her way back into the narrative, or has her final card already been played? And what new secrets might still be hiding in the shadows of this empire that's been cracked open for the world to see? That's where you come in. If you've been glued to every twist, if you've gasped at the betrayals, cheered for Rasheeda's power moves, or even felt a little sympathy for Jasmine's desperation, then don't just sit back, be part of the conversation. Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. Whose side are you on, Team Rasheeda, Team Kirk, or Team Jasmine? Do you believe the Empire can ever recover? Or is this truly the end of the Frost dynasty? And make sure you hit that like button if you want more of these deep dives into the wildest scandals shaking Atlanta. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next chapter. Because if history has taught us anything, it's that the Frosts don't stay quiet for long. Turn on notifications, join the community, and let's keep this conversation alive. Because one thing's for sure, this isn't just a story about love or betrayal. This is about power, legacy, and the shocking price of secrets. And trust me, the next twist is always just around the corner. Now tell me, viewers, if you were in Rasheeda's shoes, would you fight to control the Empire? Or would you walk away and let it all burn?